my name is Sandra Phillips, and I'm the founder and CEO of movmi. We're a small boutique agency specialized on shared mobility architecture, which essentially means we design, plan, and help launch new shared mobility services. We have about 60 projects under our belt today, and I'm really excited about kicking off a new micro webinar series called Multimodal Monday, where we talk about how do we integrate all these new forms of mobility with public transit or just amongst each other. We'll be inviting industry experts, researchers, operators, planners every other month to contribute to this series. And today, we're kicking this off with quite a stellar panel. So I have Tatiana Peralta from Purdy Motors, who spearheaded the launch of Kinto, and she will tell us all about that in a minute. We have Laercio Avila from Agape Consortium in Brazil, who is really quite a thought leader and a pioneer in bringing microtransit, new forms of mobility together with public transit. And then we have Melika Jahangiri from Wunder, who is a multimodal technology provider. And I think everybody has seen the great work they've been doing this year. So with that, I'm going to be shutting up mostly and just listen, and I'll kick it over to Tatiana to give a bit of background on what she does and what Kinto is.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandra. It's great to be here, and what an amazing topic to share. So yeah, Purdy Motor is the biggest automotive company, traditional automotive company of Costa Rica. The company was built 62 years ago, really doing the bread and butter of automotive, doing the dealer and distributor for Toyota, Lexus, Ford, Volkswagen in Costa Rica. But I think more broadly, the company started a restructuring towards a more mobility-based focus, and that's where Kinto came from. So Kinto is a multimodal subscription-based mobility as a service provider, and we started operating this year throughout the chaos of the pandemic.
And Tatiana, just quickly to follow up, what does Kinto actually have? Because my memory is not failing me. It's not just cars, right?
No, not at all. And and we really see it, as an agile process of actually expanding even more. We launched with car share, car subscription, car rental, micro-mobility services, and we're now in the process of integrating microbuses in a kind of demand-responsive transit way. And, the plan is much more broader than that. It really is, becoming the one-stop shop for mobility services in Costa Rica.
Wow, that is quite the ambitious plan. And I think a similar ambitious plan is what Agape Consortium in Brazil is doing. So I'm going to kick it over to Laercio to give a bit of background on what they're doing and himself.
Yeah, maybe you can establish a partnership with Tatiana. Who knows, Sandra? Huh? So my name is Laercio. I live in Goiânia. It's a city in the center of Brazil. It's a very beautiful city. It's near to Brasília. It's the capital of the state that the name is Goiás. And I'm part of the Agape team. Agape is a group that the main business is public transport operation. We have concessions in Goiânia and in Brasília, the capital of Brazil. And we have another company in Brasília. The name of the company is Urbi, and in Goiânia, Agape. And we have another company that the name is ITA. It's a fleet company, Fleet Solutions. And as a very traditional business, Agape is suffering with the change that we have nowadays with the new players, the technology-based solutions, individual solutions. The most of the competitors, the new competitors, are from individual mobility. And since 2016, Agape decided to change the path, and then we started a journey through innovation, and I was responsible to find the way how to create some innovation solutions. And then in 2019 we launched the first on-demand public transport service of Latin America, that the name is City Bus 2.0 in Goiânia. And now we have a very beautiful vision, in my opinion, that is how to create an ecosystem a mobility ecosystem integrating all the mobility solutions and other solutions, having the public transport as the main structure of a healthy mobility system for every city. And we want to scale our solutions to Brazil. Brazil is a very, very big country. And then we have this vision to integrate other solutions using technology to be the way to develop this plan that we have. So this is our little story. And our group, we have 4,000 employees on our group, so a very huge group. And we are suffering with the crisis that the pandemic brought to us, but we hope and we know that we are going to passing through these difficulties and reach our very beautiful view.
And then Citybus was kind of your first toe in that kind of new
it's the first
space.
step.
Yeah. And I know from like watching the Instagram channel anyway, it looks like people love that service.
Yeah.
And maybe you can say a little bit about, what's the perception of, Akape all of a sudden introducing this a lot more flexible.
Sandra, I think the main goal of Citybus is to change how the public transport works and to change how stuck is the service, where people have to adapt to the service. We changed it with Citybus 2.0, an on-demand service, public transport service, where the services adapts to the customers. So we changed this dynamic, and now we have a mascot. The Citybus, we have a mascot that the name is Happy. You know our mascot, Sandra. And if you go, guys, to the Instagram for Citybus BR, you're gonna meet Happy. And now we have the Happy Lovers, because people understood that we deliver value, changing this dynamic of how the service is operated. So we're having many Happy Lovers that goes to the social media and declares how they love Citybus 2.0. And for us, it's a very proud issue when we talk about Happy Lovers, and we created a process to establish a relationship with the clients. And we don't see that on the public transport, the traditional public transport, because you don't know who are your clients, where they are, how they are feeling. And when you have an on-demand, a real-time service, you can have a relationship, a positive relationship, and help your client and help your customers. And Citybus created the environment for us to have a new relationship with the clients. And then they go to the social media and they say that this relationship is good. And I think that technology is a part of this goal, because the processes they are very important. We have many people on our team on the back of helping our clients and establishing a relationship. And it's people to people. It's not machine to machine. It's not technology to people. It's people to people. And that's how we are reaching some very, very, very important goals on our Citybus project. Yeah. And as you said, Sandra, it's the first step. We have other portfolio solutions, and movmi is helping us to create this portfolio.
So you brought something up that I want to use to kind of leave it over to Melika, which is technology, right? This all runs on tech. And so Mel works with Wunder, which is at the forefront of all these multimodal new technology. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Wunder, and how Wunder focuses on, or maybe not focuses, but supports these new multimodal projects.
Sure. So I'm Melika, but you are welcome to call me Mel. That's what people know me as. And, my background is working in mobility, working in Ford and the Ford Smart Mobility Division, overseeing things like microtransit. So something like Citybus is things that I would look at and very interested in. And that market in Brazil is very good and prime for these kinds of services, and thinking about how to work with public and private partnerships, as well as two other car share companies as well. And I've actually selected Wunder as a vendor twice in my previous roles. So I know what it's like to kind of be in the position of the customer and think about like, what does this look like? What does operations look like? Scale look like? And we really see ourselves as a partner to our customers. And one of our customers is here, which is Purdy Motors Kinto. We're really proud to be serving them and powering their project, as well as looking at all the other things that they're doing and how we can work with them. And I remember Lawrence on their team mentioned one time, you guys are our partners in adventure. And we really think of ourselves in that way. We really think about us as an extension of the team to our customers. Like, what are you thinking about? How can we support you? So we have a vehicles team, we have IoT team, we have like marketplace. So we're always trying to create this ecosystem to better help serve our customers and help them operate. If we hear something that's interesting, we share it to them. If we read something or we're like, oh, you should think about this or do that, we're kind of working in this very collaborative hand-in-hand way. And I think that kind of sets us apart from others in the market. And, we don't want to say like, here's the technology, go figure it out, but we actually want to support them in that way. We came out to Costa Rica when it was time for launch, and then the world ended at the same time. But it was really great to be out there and see the project and to work with them. And so it's just a nice relationship.
So this has been great. I think we have a really good overview. I want to follow up with actually Purdy first on like, you're a very established operator, right? You've been around for decades doing one thing, similar to what Laercio described on public transit. You've been doing that on the automotive side.
Yeah.
So why that shift? Why did Purdy shift and start looking at multimodal? And then why on all things? I can understand that you offer subscription and rental and car share, but then adding micromobility, like lightweight electric vehicles, why? Help me understand a bit better.
Of course. I mean, if you look at it in a certain ways, it does look like a deviation from a normal strategy. But if you look at it from the point of view of mobility, it is the most natural evolution of this of the strategy of the company, right? Really what we're responding to, and I actually love what was previously said, right? It's like we have this tradition of people adapting to the transportation service that is existent, right? And we even did that with cars, right? The car has been an amazing invention that has brought so much, benefit to the users and prosperity, right? It's been incredible, right? And it's done us a lot of good. But, if you think about how consumption of a car is traditionally made, it's traditionally, it's a high commitment consumption, right? You buy a car and, think of what's the car that I'm going to need for the next 4 years, right? That one weekend where I want to, go to the beach, which is very traditional here in Costa Rica. Okay, I'm going to need a big 4x4, right? That weekend that I'm going to, take my mom to the farm, well, then I'm going to need a bigger car. And this is how we make decisions about cars and how we make decisions about mobility. And if you start thinking about it, one of the most interesting things that has happened, if you look at it, the past, let's call it 10 years, is this has been shifting, right? The consumer is changing and how they're thinking about mobility is changing. And we're no longer thinking, what am I going to need for the next 5 years? I think, what am I going to need for the next 20 minutes, right? What am I going to need for the next trip that I'm doing? And, as a company, we're very in touch with the consumer. We know this, right? We know that the kind of decisions that we're making, and you're starting to feel that, right? And if you think about, Purdy Motors, they've always been a leader in the mobility business, right? And for the last 62 years, the best way to deliver mobility has been a car. That's changing now. So, if you want to remain the leader in the mobility business, then you have to adapt to change that. So, it does feel like a very big shift, but in that sense, it's just a natural evolution of the consumer, right? So that really is, it was a big bet, in that sense, right? It's not traditional for big, companies that have, 62 years operating at the best of their ability in one specific type of business to shift. But in that sense, I think it was a big, bold bet that was worth making. So, I joined the company about 2.5 years ago, my background was in technology and mobility, working in an international scale at the World Bank in different parts around the world. And it really was, I saw a company that was really ready to take that bet. It was, and I think they've delivered on that. Wunder has been a great part of us delivering that, and finding the right partners to do it gives you the comfort also to know that you're going, first of all, you have the right partners to go, you have their leaders in their field, and it's like, okay, if this is the bet that you need to move to be the leader in the mobility business, then that's what you have to do. So in that sense, it really is just our next big bet to be the leaders in the mobility business. And then if you look at, why micromobility, it's, we do see it as a very complementary solution to the car. And as I said, this is phase one of, a bigger and bolder approach where we want to integrate public transportation. We want to integrate a number of different services to, provide that mobility solution, right? We no longer think, as I said, we no longer think what I'm going to need for the next 4 years. I think I need to go to work right now, or at least back when we used to go to work every day. But we think of, I'm going to, need to go to the grocery store. I'm going to need to go to, these are the needs that we have. It really is. And the best way to respond to those needs is to provide a multimodal service, right? It's to provide that ample range of solutions. So, when you need a bike, here's a bike. When it's raining and you need a car, here's a car. When you need to, go do some home improvement, here's the pickup truck. Micromobility is just this first phase of us creating this bigger and bolder approach on mobility. But it is, as I said, it's if you look at it, it's just a very natural evolution of what's happening on people and their mobility needs. So we're moving to now transport adapts to people, not people adapts to transport.
Yeah, which is exactly what Laercio, you kind of described, right? So
I believe, Sandra, that Prudy Motors understood what we understand. And we know that we are on a very changing decade, or year that we are living nowadays is a very a year with many changes, as we never ever saw. So I was talking about this issue yesterday, that we understand that life is going to be just like life as a service. We are not going to have objects or have cars, or not only mobility as a service, but maybe our houses or computers. I believe that in the future, maybe we're going to have life as a service. Then we don't buy the product. And I think that Prudy Motors is understanding that the product is not the most important thing. The important thing is the benefit that we have. So how we deliver the benefits to our customers, how we deliver convenience for our customers. So maybe life as a service is going to be a way that we must build or develop nowadays. To in the future we have more benefits and less products and less things, and more feelings, more happiness than having things. So I believe that we are on a path on this way, and that's why how I see, and that's why Agape is trying to reach all the goals that we are and the strategy that we are building nowadays.
I just want to touch on that because it's super interesting to me as someone who doesn't own a car or a carless home. So, there's a lot of decisions that go into what we do, and I think it becomes like what you're saying, where it's going to be life stuff. And I make decisions exactly like Tati says, like, what do I need today and how do I get there? And then there's this component. I was talking to a large car share operator here in LA, and they said, how do you make your decisions on whether to take our service or like Get Around or Blue LA or whatever? And I say, it really depends on what I'm doing that day, how much time I have, and like what's the benefit for me to have a bigger car versus not. And then there's the factor of I take micromobility to the vehicle, because sometimes it's not so close to me, and I actually take a scooter, and they're like, that's really interesting because we're trying to understand how much the scooter is in play when people go to our vehicles and get it. And it's a huge factor for me because usually the cars are not close enough for me to go. It's like at least, half a mile. And I don't always have time to go and walk that half a mile, which I should, but I don't. So I get on a scooter and I go, and then I put that into a factor in my decision making. Like, it's also part of the price, right? And so I think that it's going to become more of a factor in deciding. And I think this living lifestyle portion of it, we call it the moving goods portion of it, instead of moving people, I think is really interesting. I was talking about the Peloton, and I was in New York and they had it in the hotel, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Peloton should have a subscription service because I'm getting married in April. I need to work out every single day, and I would pay more to have it for 3 months in my house than the price of owning it for eternity. And maybe there's more that are thinking in that capacity of, I need a car for 4 months or 3 months, or I need, this particular souped up laptop or whatever it is for this period, and I'm willing to pay more to have it for a shorter duration. And then the return on investment for the company is so much more as well. You make more money with a subscription for 3 months than you would on 9 months, believe it or not, in a lot of cases. And so thinking about it in that way, I think, is really interesting and definitely the future, and people will be more responsive to that.
And it's so interesting how we're changing, right? How behavior is changing, how our preferences are changing. And I also think, the pandemic has been devastating for a lot of businesses. But the one thing it has done, it has actually changed our transportation behavior, which normally are super, super sticky. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that it has done, and I do want to pick up on that kind of as the second to last question to the discussion, is something, Melika, you kind of really highlighted, the partnership approach. And I think one of the things that the pandemic has shown, at least in my work, is that people are more willing to partner. But I think there's also an understanding. Like, we knew this before. We know that if we want to grow this multimodal network, we actually have to work together. Nobody can do this on their own. Or I don't think anyway that we can. So tell me a little bit about what we need in these partnerships to actually make this successful. And when I say successful, I really go back to what you guys just described and talked about, is the consumer. So the end user, what do we need? What type of partnership arrangements do we need to make this successful? I don't know who want to go first. I can pick one.
I can start if you like. Okay. Or you go for it.
I just believe that a very important part, Sandra, of any partnership or mobility partnership is have someone who understands the market. So technology doesn't do that at all or alone. So it's very important to have someone or a part that has the understanding of the behaviors, the local behaviors, how the market works, what are the needs. And then when you have that way of thinking or developing solutions, then you choose the best technology to deliver the solution that you created to have the needs, to attend the needs that you mapped. So, in my opinion, everything starts on the market. So, and then you must have some tools to understand this market, and empathic way is a very important tool. Data is a very important tool, and then you create the design of the solution. And as I said, technology is a very important part, how to deliver this solution. So to establish a partnership, it's very important to understand the market needs and how are the local requirements and how to design the solution, and then to develop the processes and the management to have a great relationship with your customers and your partners. But I think to finish that, to create an ecosystem with many partners, with many solutions, with the customer in the center, is a very important way, and establish partnership with this ecosystem, and even with your client, to have a partnership with your client. For me, this is one way to think how to establish partnerships.
I have a contrarian approach to
Yeah. Nice.
Well, yes, I agree with you. Understanding the market is extremely important. You know, that's one of the things I learned the hard way. I'm working at Ford in some of the markets that we launched, because we were just thinking like, oh, naturally we should be in this market, but then we got there and the need wasn't there, and it was a very expensive cost for us to understand. I would say, however, the technology, you know, Wunder aside, forget Wunder, but the technology is extremely important. If people can't trust the technology, they're not going to use your service. So if they go and they try to lock and unlock, or they can't make a reservation, or it's just a hassle, the connectivity is not there, then they're not going to use your service. And I think that that's a really important factor to highlight, because we've seen that a lot with, like, you know, even GM's Maven had a great service with a lot of cars in the area, but the technology was so unreliable that people actually didn't use the service. And so they went out of business. You know, a lot of others, like if their technology couldn't pivot to the market, like for example, Chariot was a fixed route service, and we couldn't make our technology fast enough to be dynamic. And so we were out of the game. And so that was, you know, part of why it's no longer an arm of business for Ford. So I think the technology piece is really important. And I think the partnership with your tech provider is also important, with context to your market. Because, for example, with Purdy, when we were launching with them, we realized that SIM cards and connectivity is so much harder in Costa Rica than anywhere else. In Latin America, it's much harder and it's more expensive, and you need these special things. And, you know, like, these are things that we've learned through our experience and working in these markets to ensure like you have a smooth operation and able to work and get it going. So I hear what you're saying, but I think the tech is super, super critical also for projects to be successful, as well as your partnership with cities, you know, coming in and having something in place where you're like, look, I'm not here to compete with your service, especially around microtransit. I know there's sensitivity of like, are you replacing bus services? But if you kind of position it, I'm complementing, not competing, and this is how we're going to work together, I think goes a really long way for success in any market.
So the geographical context of the user, you need to understand that, but then also, and this goes back again to the user, the technology has to be reliable enough to support that user at the end of the day. And then, yeah, cities, I hear you. I mean, Laercio is in a fortunate position. He's the public transit, or he?
I know.
So
ask himself.
Less touchy, but I mean, Tatiana, what's like your like key success recipe? Let's put it that way on the partnership.
I mean, I think two things. I think actually I would agree both with what Mel and Laercio are saying. It is a two, you know, it is a kind of like a two-front war, right? In that sense, you need to have, you know, the constant communication, the understanding the market, being able to understand your customer, understand the market, have a relationship at the end of the day, you know, and especially as we start to expand and add other kinds of services that have other mobility providers, you know, having that connection is clearly essential. And at the same time, you know, without technology, it just doesn't work. You know, I think we've always had this, you know, you go to cities that are completely overwhelmed with, you know, mobility service providers, right? You go to most cities in the States and you have 5 different kinds of scooters around you, 5 different cars of rideshare around you, 5 different, things are just popping up, and actually it's almost like anxiety producing, right? You have so many decisions, and I'm like, oh my God, I could have like a multi-complex decision matrix just to how I'm gonna get to work. And it's like, okay,
every morning for me when I go outside in downtown LA, there's like so many things. There's like every scooter, every car, everything. It's like the world's your oyster. But I will say that this is a reason why I could give up my vehicle, is because there were so many options available to me, and I could really think about how I'm going to get around the day. I live right above the metro, so sometimes I take the metro, and then I know there's a scooter or a car waiting for me there, and I can do the last mile for that. And I think like people, when there are more options like that, as overwhelming as they can be, I know for cities it's very overwhelming, but when you have those options, then you can trust the system and you can let go of some of your old habits. Like a vehicle, like I would have never in my lifetime imagined a period where I would own a car in Southern California, especially with Los Angeles being, everything is so spread apart and we don't have the best transit available. But because there are now these services, I can do that. And I have for 2 years now, which first it was like an experiment for 2 months. I'm like, let me just see what would happen. Now it's become 2 years. But with the pandemic, it used to pencil out where not owning a car made sense. But with the pandemic, I'm spending more using these services. And now it's like this kind of like, ooh, what is this going to look like in the future? So it's really interesting to see, like, this was kind of supposed to be an interim replacement, like every so often I'm going to need a car or I'll take scooters, and now it's like all the time I'm doing it. And it's just like a different flow, and I think somewhere in the middle is going to be where I land with the services.
But I think that's exactly the beauty of what I was getting to, that this is where really technology comes into play, right? Because if I have to open up 5 different apps to check out 5 different prices, to check out 5 different options, then that starts to become overwhelming. But that's the beauty of when you really have a multimodal service, right? And you have one stop, where you can see all of these, and it shows you, right? Hey, take your scooter and connect to the public transportation, right? It's reliable, it's convenient. And actually, when you're talking about partnerships, and I think this is one area that we often oversee, is, the role also that payment providers, in transportation, For us, really, the goal, what we'd love to get to, is to full integration with public transportation services, right? And I think really these technology levers are really the key to getting to that dream where I have a one-stop shop, I open it, and it's not about becoming a walled garden, right? It's not about having one to rule them all and one person who provides everything, but it's actually having every single mobility service provider being able to connect to each other, right? And I think that once we're able to get to that level of convenience, really when we're talking about, resilient, sustainable cities or resilient, sustainable mobility services, that is really what we want, right? That is what really will get people to be like, actually, I get the same level of service from this provider than I would get if I have a car parked 90% of the time on my garage, and I just for the 5% that I need it, I'll use it. Yeah. But it really is this full integration. And that, you won't have that full integration without the partnerships, without the city being your partner, without the public transportation system being your partner. Understanding that it is a partnership, right? That these mobility service providers, a lot of times you'd happily, be a feeder to big capacity lines, but it also won't happen without technology and with payments, integration with payments.
Yeah, and I believe, Tatiana, that we have a very big challenge, that is how to balance the ecosystem. Because today, the public transport is being attacked by the new solutions. The public transport is losing clients, and so it's not balanced. So the challenge is how to balance, and the public transport doesn't keep only the bad part of the system. So Sandra knows how it's difficult to balance this ecosystem, but we must do this, because only individual solutions not the solution for the cities. We have other problems, we have another situation. So this is how we are trying to work and to develop a balanced ecosystem with many solutions, with a portfolio of solutions, individual solutions, collective solutions, and how to organize it. And to finish, I think me and Mel, we are talking the same thing. We are not on the opposite sides, but I keep my position. I truly believe that the first part is to understand the requirements, to understand the pains of the clients. Then you use these requirements to choose the best technology. But I truly believe that the technology, we won't live in a world without technology. So it's a very, very, very important thing. But the most important thing is to, in my opinion, is to understand what are the requirements and the problems that the clients have and how to design a solution.
Uh-oh. See, now I can say whatever I want.
We're back.
Just kidding.
Here we're back. So this is giving me an opportunity to kind of wrap it up. We probably could continue for another hour discussing amongst ourselves, but I do want to quickly wrap up.
Do I get a rebuttal at least?
Sorry?
Do I get a rebuttal to his last?
You can use I was going to ask one last question. So what is it for 2021 that we're going to do? What's your, like, if you had one wish for 2021, what's the wish for multimodal? Mel, if you want to use it for your rebuttal, use it for your rebuttal.
No, I was just going to say, I agree. And I think with what he's saying and what I was saying, it's like the chicken or the egg, right? It's, we're unclear what is first, but they're both equally important. So Tati, you had, very Switzerland good answer that they're both very important, and I agree. So we're good on that one. I think for 2021, when it comes to multimodal, I think my wish is that cities are more open to these kinds of services and being able to allow for these things to come in and be a little bit more accommodating, so that we have these services for citizens. I think they're extremely important. Like I mentioned, I gave up my vehicle and will continue to so long as these things are available to me. But if they're not, then it's going to become very challenging. So being able to have a really good public-private partnership is going to be key for next year. And also, getting control of the situation with the virus and pandemic. And I'm not sure if there's going to be ever going back to normal. There's going to always be a variation of what has been happening now, but just having a better grip on it, I think will serve all of us well.
So Tatiana, I think hopefully we'll get Laercio back. Yeah, there we go. We're going back. Tatiana, so what's your wish?
My wish, I mean, this is something that's going to happen. It's written in the cards in that sense. So I guess similar to Mel, it's, I guess, getting to a point where we can really do this in a fully, partnership-based and multimodal perspective. I think that's because, at the end of the day, and going back, it really is about the customer. It really is about how you can deliver the best service to the customer, and really that won't happen without that full integration. So I guess in that sense, from our point of view, we can very easily tell, we'd love for, public transportation to have an open payment systems that we can integrate to, I think our wishes are fulfilled with Wunder. We have an awesome partner in them and in delivering a, top of the line technology provider. So it really is about, finding these other partners, bringing more people in and really advancing. As I said, it's for the good of the customer and the service that we provide. And I think more broadly, I think this is something that we've had to learn how to do this year, want it or not, and it's to act with agility, right? We had to, we were set to launch on a Thursday, and the Sunday before, the country went into essentially lockdown because of COVID, right? We've had no choice but to act in a very agile way since day one. But it's all in good health, in that sense. We've learned how to act, we've learned how to respond to customer needs better, we've learned how to change, to pivot, right? As Melika was saying, if it's not moving people, then it's moving goods. One has to move to the other. Either the people move to the goods or the goods move to the people, right? So it really is, I think that 2021 in that sense, we're just going to have to keep on doing more of this, right? Keep on reinventing, keep on understanding what the needs are, and keep responding in very, very quick ways to those needs. And I think that's also one of the beauties of multimodal service, right? It's, It's not a 7-year concession where I only have one chance to change a service, every 7-10 years, right? We can change this every single day, and we should, the service should be responding with that level of agility. So hopefully, more of the same, better.
All right.
At least in the multimodal space,
So I'm going to, Laercio, what is your 2021 multimodal wish? Where we're headed?
It's a very difficult question, Sandra. I think the next year is going to be another year of challenges, but I believe that a multimodal model or a collective way of thinking is we joined this situation, this pandemic problem collectively. And then I think we are going to leave this situation in a collective way. So I think that being collaborative, sharing things, and sharing new ways of thinking and integrations between new solutions, maybe 2021 we are going to have other opportunities to create new solutions and to create a new mobility world different from all the past that we have until today. I think it's a year then that we can create new things and develop new solutions to new challenges. I think we're going to have new opportunities with all the things that we left behind.